When I was a junior in high school, I almost made an idol or working to fill those bumps in my road that could have completely changed the whole directory of my life. And you know the thing about it, it wasn't even a scary idol. I think sometimes when we think about these idols, we think that there's something that's really bad or scary. But for me, my idol was that I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a speech and debate teacher because debate was my passion in high school. And I wanted to be a speech and debate teacher because I knew the plan. I knew that if I went to college, I filled all of the boxes. I did everything that I was supposed to do. I knew that I could do it, and that would be my plan, and that was safe. And I knew exactly what I was doing, and I had a plan. So I went to church camp that summer, like I said, before my junior year, and we were talking about, everyone going off to college, getting ready for college, where they were in their high school career, and I was there, and I was saying, I've already been applying to colleges, I already know what I'm doing, I'm going to be a speech and debate teacher. And throughout that week of church camp, I had 3 separate counselors come up and question me about that decision. And one specifically came up and said, "You know what, Em? I think you're making a mistake here. I think you really need to consider going into ministry." And you know what? There in that moment, I was so angry. He didn't know me. He was a counselor at camp. He didn't know how much time I had poured into speech and debate, how much energy and effort I had poured into this, how much it meant to me. I had already told all my friends and all my teachers that I was going to be a teacher. I couldn't go back on that now. And most importantly, I could still love God and be a teacher. I was so angry that he thought he could tell me what I should do. But really, when I think about it, what he also didn't know, and what even I was scared to admit to myself, is that I had poured so much of my identity in high school into my speech and debate. And I really wasn't sure what was going to be left or what it had all been for if I wasn't going to get to do it as a career full time. I was scared to let it go. I was too busy looking down at this future life I had constructed for myself, keeping it all in order, keeping the plan just the way I thought it needed to be, that even when someone personally invited me to look up and see a burning bush, I got angry. I finished my week at camp and went home still determined to follow my own path and become a teacher. However, here's the thing about God. Even when we mess up and don't stop to listen, God keeps talking. So it was a couple weeks after camp, and I was at home, and I woke up in the middle of the night unable to go back to sleep. And I really hadn't thought about this comment from my counselor or anything in weeks, but for whatever reason that night, I could not get it out of my head. So after literally a couple hours of wrestling with this and not being able to go back to sleep, I got out of bed and got on my knees, and I remember I specifically prayed, "God, if you are wanting me to go into ministry, just give me the call." Now, this is a true story. There in the middle of the night, alone in my room, I had this moment of silence with God, and as soon as I finished the prayer and asked for the call, my phone started ringing. It was in that moment that I knew that God had paved a whole new road for me. And I can honestly say that I have never wavered on my career since that night. There's been some detours, but I have always known that some form of ministry is where I'm going. I woke up that next morning and told my parents that I was going in a whole new direction. Now, the literal side of my brain knows that when my phone did start ringing, I saw the caller ID, And it was my boyfriend, who's now my husband, calling me. He claims he doesn't remember making that call in the middle of the night, and it could have just been a fluke. Regardless if it was divine intervention, a coincidence, or just an accidental dial on the behalf of Kyle, it meant something to me. Just like many of the stories that we're looking at in this series, it's more about the lessons that we can pull from these stories than the literal interpretation of them that's important. Because it was a moment where I stopped trying to force my own agenda. I stopped building an idol of what I thought my future should be and allowed God into my plans.